Exposed. A sinister entity haunts the hidden depths of the Hadal Zone. Discover what lurks below. Lucy's heart raced as she scrubbed the docks, the cold salt water biting at her raw hands. Every night, the shadows stretched longer across Driftwood Bay, twisting like skeletal fingers reaching for her. She knew the legends, those things that crept beneath the waves, creatures lurking in the dark depths, whispers of the Hadal curse echoing through the lifeless town. The fish processing plant was barely hanging on, and her shifts there barely covered the bills piling up like driftwood on the shore. As she trudged through the empty streets, the air thick with apprehension, her phone buzzed incessantly. It was Harold, her eccentric neighbor, always warning her to leave, claiming the ocean demanded sacrifices. "Get out while you can, Lucy," he'd insist, his voice a frantic rasp. Her skin prickled with anxiety, but she dismissed his warnings. After all, they were just stories, right? Yet, the townsfolk's glances told a different story. They whispered behind closed doors, suspicion clouding their expressions whenever she passed. The sheriff, once a symbol of safety, now wore a veil of secrecy that sent chills down her spine. He would often watch from the shadows, eyes narrowing as if he were judging her worthiness to stay in Driftwood Bay. One night, with cold rain drumming on the docks, panic gripped her chest when Max, her youngest, went missing. They had walked to the beach together, hand in hand, just minutes before. "Stay close," she had warned him. And now he was gone. An icy chill swept through her body when memories of other disappearances flooded her thoughts. Kids, men, even dogs had vanished into the abyss. "Max," she screamed, her voice swallowed by the angry tide. Each second felt like an eternity. She ran towards the water, heart pounding, mind racing. The sun dipped below the horizon, and darkness closed in like a tight noose. Lucy turned towards the sheriff's office, desperate for help. As she burst through the door, the familiar scent of mildew and gun oil hit her like a brick wall. "Sheriff," she gasped, breathless. He looked up, his expression unreadable, and for a moment, she caught a flicker of something. Fear? Indifference? "He's probably just playing near the shore," he said, his tone dismissive. "Kids wander. You should just wait." Her world spiraled. His eyes held secrets that choked her. "No. He's missing." She could feel the walls closing in, people behind her shifting uncomfortably, shaking their heads. They were closing ranks, isolating her. The sheriff smirked, a twisted curve that made her skin crawl. "Look, the real danger is the sea, things stirring in the depths." Her body trembled as his words sank in, mingling with the whispers she heard at the bar. Old fishermen warned about monsters awakening in the dark. Desperation made her pulse race. There was a truth here, buried beneath the town's surface, like the darkness below the waves. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Lucy stood there, wrapped in a shroud of fear, the weight of isolation crashed down upon her. She stumbled outside only to find the night grown colder, thicker. The shadows flickered along the docks, as if alive. Something waited just beneath the surface, drawn by her scream. Clenching her fists, determined, she raced back to the beach. Max had to be safe. "Max," she cried out, the waves crashing violently now, threatening to drown her every plea. As she reached the shoreline, the ocean heaved and groaned, a distant growl rumbling in the depths. Her heart was a drum of fear, reverberating through her. The abyss called to her, pulling her in. And just as she reached the edge of the water, an ominous shape emerged from the depths, something that should never be seen by human eyes. Would she find her son, or become part of the darkness herself? The tide surged, and Lucy felt the chill of the ocean's breath as the night swallowed her scream, leaving only the echoes of despair. Lucy's breathing grew erratic, each inhale burning her lungs as she staggered nearer to that unfathomable shape rising from the dark water. It was massive, each undulation of the creature's form causing the ocean to churn violently. She could barely comprehend what her eyes were seeing, a mass of tendrils glistening with the wetness of the sea, the surface rippling as it broke free from the clutches of the depths. "Max!" She screamed again, desperation clawing at her throat as she strained to see any signs of her child. But the waves only answered with a thunderous crash and the mocking silence of the night. The creature's grotesque figure twisted, revealing a mouth too wide, lined with rows of glimmering, jagged teeth. The air grew thick, heavy with something rancid that made her stomach churn. It felt alive, brimming with a sinister intelligence that pierced through the darkness, locking onto her with an inescapable gaze. "Get away!" Lucy shouted, instinctively stepping back, her feet dragging in the wet sand. She didn't know how, but she was determined to fight, to protect her son against this nightmarish thing. The sheriff's words echoed in her mind, things stirring in the depths. Was this what he meant? Just then, a flicker of movement caught her eye. A figure, small and desperate, emerged from behind the rocks that framed the beach. "Max!" Her heart leapt. "Max!" She lunged forward, but the creature seemed to sense her movement. With a shudder, it lunged toward her, writhing and twisting as it breached the ocean's surface. "No!" Lucy screamed, adrenaline flooding her veins. She couldn't let it take him. She sprinted along the shoreline, calling out her son's name with a voice that cracked under the weight of fear. The wretched stench of the sea itself seemed to loom overhead like a storm cloud of doom. "Mommy!" Max's voice rang out, filled with terror. He was stuck, trapped by the rocks, eyeing the creature with wide, innocent eyes. The proximity of danger struck Lucy like a slap to the face. Every instinct told her to flee, to save herself and abandon the fight. But she couldn't leave her son to this horror. Revving up her courage, she charged toward the rocks, her heart hammering a frantic rhythm in her chest. She reached for Max, the water splashing up around her ankles, each surge threatening to pull her back into the chaos. But the creature was closer now, tendrils stretching, as if trying to ensnare both her and her child. "Grab my hand," she shouted as she reached Max. He hesitated, eyes darting between the writhing mass and his mother. Time froze, a thick fog of dread enveloping them both, just as her fingers brushed against his. The roar of the ocean echoed louder, as if the very sea was throwing its fury at them in a final act. Max's hand clamped onto hers, but before she could pull him free, the creature lunged forward, its grotesque form coiling between them. Lucy could see its eye black as tar, swirling with dark secrets and unfathomable depths. She felt the pull of the abyss tugging at her heart. All at once, she understood, this was no mere beast of legend. This thing was an ancient guardian of the Hadal Zone, demanding offerings from the living to keep its dark powers at bay. A deafening rumble filled the air, causing the rocks beneath her feet to tremble, and with a primal scream, the creature recoiled, twisting back into the gaping maw of the ocean. But the fight wasn't over. As it vanished, Lucy felt a strange sensation sweeping over her, a cold whisper, seeping into her soul, dragging her thoughts into a darkness where hopes flickered like dying embers. "Don't let go," Max shouted, clutching her hand tighter, pulling her back to the present. But she could feel her resolve slipping, a sinister pull calling her name from the depths. "Max," she whispered, a dread that curled around her insides like barbed wire. What had she awakened? What price would the ocean demand for their lives? As the darkness loomed, Lucy braced herself for a fight, knowing that the night was far from over. Lucy's heart raced, each thump echoing like the rolling waves around her. Max's grip on her hand tightened, his small fingers trembling. She could feel the icy tendrils of dread coiling around them, a suffocating shroud wrapping them closer to the nightmare surrounding them. "Stay close," she urged, determination igniting within her. The ocean, once a vast expanse of tranquility, now felt like a trap, its depths hiding deadly secrets. As she turned back to the shore, an unsettling calm fell over the area. The shrieking wind died down. The waves settled into a murmur that almost sounded like whispering voices, pleading and taunting all at once. "Mommy, I'm scared," Max said, his voice trembling, breaking the eerie silence. "I know, baby. Just hold my hand." Ahead, the beach seemed unnaturally dark, shadows creeping like specters along the sand. The creature's retreat felt temporary, as if it had only been summoned back to the abyss, biding its time. Lucy scanned the shoreline, her instincts flaring. Behind the rocks, something flickered, a movement in the shadows, more than just the flicker of a dying flame. "Did you see that?" she asked, barely above a whisper. Max nodded, eyes wide. A tremor shook the ground beneath them, not violent, but steady, as if the earth itself breathed. The shadows seemed to bow and shift, speaking in a language that slithered around her mind. The horror of what lay beneath the surface gnawed at her, tightening her throat. She forced herself to look closer. The night offered little comfort. Suddenly, from the depths, a vicious roar erupted, shattering their brief stillness. The creature's gaping maw reappeared above the water, as if it had only been lurking just beneath the surface, waiting for its chance to strike. The sound reverberated through her bones, a primordial call echoing far beyond the isolation of the beach. "Run!" Lucy shouted, pulling Max toward the rocky outcropping. But the ground surged beneath them, the ocean roiling with a renewed ferocity. "Mommy!" Max cried, falling to his knees, panic splintering his voice. She turned, eyes wide, heart sinking. Max seemed frozen, the terror vast as the sea before them. The creature surged, a mass of dark tendrils and scales, and Lucy felt the air charge with its unholy presence. "Max!" she yelled, desperation clawing at her throat. In a blur, she dove, grasping at him, yanking him into her arms. The water licked at their feet, climbing with malevolent haste, each wave mocking her vigilance, urging her toward surrender. "Climb!" Lucy shouted, pushing Max toward the rocks. He scrambled, panic-stricken, as she glanced at the creature. It pulsed, the air shimmering around it like a mirage, its titanic shape swirling in the depths, the eye dark and enduring fixated on them, piercing her very essence. Clambering up the barnacle-coated rocks, she hoisted Max beside her. They huddled against the stone, breaths ragged, the tempest around them a cacophony of chaos. But then came the whisper, a voice that curled through the salty air like smoke. "Tread carefully, the tide changes." Looking toward the ocean, Lucy's pulse raced. The water shimmered, forming shapes just beneath the surface. Could it be? Shadows that once danced could now have formed a harbinger of something more sinister lurking. As the whispers thrummed louder, Lucy felt it, the call of the abyss, a deep, resonant hum that thumbled with her heartbeat. "Mommy, I don't want to go back there," Max whimpered, clinging to her. The realization washed over Lucy like the icy waves crashing in the distance. They weren't just fighting for survival, they were playing a deadly game, and the stakes were growing darker the longer they lingered. "Then we have to find a way to end this," she breathed, looking out to the undulating surface of the sea, where the creature's presence pulsed like a heartbeat. But as night fell deeper, the waves changed, becoming less rhythmic and more deliberate, slipping through her fingers like mercurial echoes. And deep within the shadows, she couldn't shake the feeling the beast wasn't finished. Suddenly, above the rumble of the surf, a chilling laughter erupted from the depths. "Max," she whispered, horror dawning upon her, "it wants something from us. We need to figure out what it's demanding before it's too late." The tides turned, the darkness spread. The price of their lives lingered in the air like a miasma, thickening with each passing second. "What is next?" Max asked, voice trembling. But Lucy remained silent, staring into the urging black sea, wondering what awaited them in the shadows. What more would the creature reveal, and would they survive to unravel the truth? The laughter reverberated through the night, like a bell tolling doom. Lucy's heart raced faster, each beat a reminder of their precarious situation. The shadows around them seemed to pulse with a life of their own, encroaching on their fragile haven. "Hold on tight, Max," she urged, tightening her grip on him. The rocks beneath them felt more like a prison than a refuge. The night air grew colder, wrapping around them like a shroud, and she could feel the creature's dark presence seeking them out in the depths, eyes watching, waiting. "Why is it laughing?" Max asked, his voice small, a shiver running through him. "I don't know," she choked out, desperately scanning the shore for an escape. The ocean held a terrifying promise in its waves, and she felt drawn into its dark trance. What did it want? With a sudden shock, a massive wave surged forward, crashing against the rocks. Water sprayed into their faces, and Lucy instinctively shielded Max. The creature roared again, and Lucy realized it wanted them to fear it. It thrived on terror, drawing strength from their dread. "Mommy!" Max screamed, tugging at her sleeve. "Please." She could see the shoreline flickering in the dim light, flanked by jagged rocks. With every wave, the tides crept closer, hungry and relentless. "We have to move," she shouted, adrenaline surging as she scrambled down the rocks. "Run to the trees." Max's small legs pumped faster, desperation pushing him forward. They stumbled across the loose sand, slipping and sliding as the ocean gurgled, a beast hungry for their return. Behind them, the laughter echoed louder, a cacophonous symphony of mockery that made her blood run cold. "Keep going," she yelled, but terror gripped her with each desperate breath. The shadows shifted, darting at the edges of her vision, flickering like a faulty neon sign. Was it just her mind playing tricks, or did the darkness swirl with malice? "Mommy!" Max cried out again, halting to glance back at her. She turned, and for a brief moment, her heart sank as she caught the creature's gaze, a pulsating, inky eye, magnified above the water. It seemed to penetrate her very soul, digging into her insecurities, her fears of failing to protect her son. "Run, Max. You have to keep running." In that instant, the ground shuddered beneath them, and the ocean roared again, this time sending a wave far taller than before crashing toward the shore. Lucy grabbed Max, and they dove just as the water crashed down, soaking them both. They landed hard on the damp sand. The laughter simmered, now laced with a low growl, a terrible promise that they'd pay for their escape. Lucy's breath was heaving, panic clawing at her throat. "Mommy, I can't do this," Max stuttered, his bravery crumbling under the mounting dread. "Don't you dare give up." She tightened her arm around him, the fear in his eyes igniting a protective fire inside her. "Together, we're strong. We can face this." As they scrambled to their feet, a sudden realization struck her. They weren't alone. In the shadows, between the trees, figures emerged. Tiny flickers of glowing eyes, staring with an otherworldly hunger. "They're coming for us," Max shouted, his voice rising in terror. "Don't look back. Just run." But the shadows flared to life, moving closer, surrounding them. They were not just remnants of the night. They were part of the creature's power. Whispers slithered through the air, taunting. "You're trapped." "Little one's trapped in its game." Max stumbled, and Lucy spun around, catching him just before he fell. "Get up. We can't stop now." It was a nightmare that refused to end. Panic surged like waves threatening to drown them. The creature's laughter echoed ominously, haunting them. They had to find a way to outweed it, to decipher its demands. Just ahead, she spotted a mouth of a cavern in the rock formation, dark and looming, inviting them in. It was risky, but maybe their only chance. "That way, Max," she urged. "Are you sure?" "Trust me." As they rushed toward the cavern, the shadows lunged, tendrils grasping at them, and the creature roared again, a sound of fury and hunger that shook them to the core. Lucy dove into the darkness, pulling Max close. The inside was cooler, the air thick with a damp chill. They huddled against the stone, breaths mingling in the suffocating silence. But the whisper returned, curling around them like frozen fingers. "You cannot escape." It is only beginning. With a sickening realization, Lucy knew they were far from safe. The game had just begun, and the rules were about to change. Max grasped her hand tighter. "What do we do now, Mommy?" Lucy's heart pounded in her chest. "We fight to uncover the truth, before it consumes us entirely." As the shadows danced outside, something primal began to awaken in the depths of the cave. And she could feel it, something far worse than the ocean, something ancient. What is waiting for us in the dark? She wondered, fear pricking her skin. The cavern trembled, and a new darkness loomed. They had delved into the unknown, and the creature's laughter now seeped into the stone, promising an even greater terror ahead. The shadows closed in around Lucy and Max, the air growing thick with dread. They pressed deeper into the cavern, its walls slick and cold beneath their fingertips. The creature outside roared, a chilling reminder of the immense danger just beyond their fragile hiding place. "Mommy, I don't like this," Max whispered, his small voice trembling. Lucy could barely make out his face in the dim light. Her heart clenched at the sight of his wide eyes glistening with fear. "Neither do I," But we have to stay strong, she replied, her voice steady despite the icy grip of terror wrapping around her throat. Just hold on to my hand. As they ventured further into the cavern's maw, the laughter grew distant, replaced by an oppressive silence that gripped them like a noose. A shiver ran down her spine. Silence wasn't a comfort. It was a predator lurking, waiting to pounce. "Mommy, what do we find in here?" Max asked, his curiosity peeking beneath his fear. "I don't know, sweetheart. But we'll find something to help us," she replied, a flicker of determination igniting within her. Eyes burning at the edges of darkness glimmered back at them, offering no comfort. Whatever hunted them was still near, it was only waiting for its moment. "Listen," Lucy whispered suddenly, halting. The faintest sound echoed back, a soft whimper, like a far-off plea for help. Her heart raced. Instinct took over, and she moved toward it, urging Max to follow. "Stay close," she whispered fiercely, her grip tightening on his small hand. They rounded a bend, heart pounding with every echoing step. There, against the wall, was a figure slouched low. Lucy's heart sank. "Hello?" she called out, breathless. The figure stirred, turning toward them. It was a woman, disheveled and wide-eyed, clutching a jagged stone in her hands. "You shouldn't be here," she hissed, eyes wild. "It hunts in the dark. It plays with your mind. Please, we need to get out of here," Lucy said, trying to keep the panic from rising in her throat. "Can't you help us?" The woman shook her head, tears streaming down her dirt-streaked cheeks. "No one leaves, no one has left." She began to rock back and forth, her breath quickening with every word. Max whimpered under his breath, pressing against Lucy. "Mommy, what if we're trapped forever? Listen to me." Lucy snapped, her voice laced with urgency. "We have to find a way out. We can't lose hope. You said you've been here. How did you survive?" The woman's pupils dilated, a haunted look creeping into her eyes. "You can't reason with it. You must give in to the game." Behind her words, a deep rumble echoed from within the cavern, shaking the walls and sending a shower of dust cascading around them. The darkness thickened, swirling with a palpable malevolence, as if the cavern itself were alive, hungry. Suddenly, the air shifted. An overwhelming sense of dread rolled through the space, a whisper too soft to understand, yet full of promise. It felt as if the shadows had reached out, wrapping around Lucy and Max, pulling them into an abyss. The woman clawed at her own face, tears mixing with blood. "Run!" she screamed suddenly, her voice breaking. "It's coming for you. It wants to play. Max, we have to go." Lucy's instincts kicked in, propelling her forward despite the horrifying chaos unraveling around them. They felt a tug in the darkness as the creature laughed again, its voice echoing like shrapnel in her mind. Just as they turned to flee, the ground trembled violently, and they were pulled back toward the shadows, a pair of small pleas lost in the depths of an unseen nightmare. As they stumbled onward, Lucy could feel the cavern's malevolence coiling tighter, the whispers now forming words. They were demands, echoes of other souls trapped in the darkness. "Come play with us, come stay forever." With a cry that ripped from her lungs, Lucy pressed on through the suffocating dark, dragging Max behind her. But a new thought loomed in her mind. What if this had all been planned? A cruel game set in motion long before they had even stumbled inside? As they pushed forward into the blackness, all hope seemed to whirl around them like mist, dissolving into despair. She could hear the creature's laughter growing closer, intertwined with mocking whispers. "Where to now?" Max asked, the tremor in his voice betraying his fear. "We find the exit no matter what," Lucy insisted, but doubt began to gnaw at her. Faces flickered in the shadows, and every flutter of movement felt like a touch of icy fingers. As they neared a split in the path, the laughter erupted in a frenzied cacophony, drowning out her thoughts. Choose or be chosen. In a moment fraught with dread, Lucy hesitated, heart racing. Which way? Darkness loomed in both directions, but one path felt thicker, more suffocating. The other whispered questions of salvation. She swallowed hard, the weight of silence heavy around them. Which path do we take? She wondered aloud, but she knew deep down it was a choice that could seal their fate for better or for worse. A heartbeat later, an unseen force pulled at Lucy's resolve. She stumbled, breath hitching in her throat as the cacophony rose again, drowning the echoes of her last thoughts. The laughter twisted around her, a sinister caress that promised fate aligned with loss. "Mommy." Max's voice broke through the terror. It made her freeze. A flicker of fear flashed through his eyes, and she turned to him. "I can feel it. It wants us to choose." Lucy swallowed hard, panic coiling tight in her chest. "Max, trust me. We will find a way," she whispered, but the words felt as fragile as spider silk against the encroaching darkness. The shadows flickered. They seemed to listen, seemed to watch. She fought a tremor as she looked at the split in the path. The left side shimmered with an unsettling glow, as if it held secrets just beyond comprehension. The right, shrouded in heavy darkness, waited with the promise of terror. "Mommy, what if we choose the wrong one?" Max whispered, his voice trembling as he clutched her hand tighter. A chilling breeze rustled through the cavern, the echo of laughter now mingling with low, sinister growls. Lucy's heart pounded. "We have to decide. Now." Something behind her surged, a looming presence that pressed against her back. She turned, instinctively, and spotted no one. Just shadows. That realization made her breath hitch. "Left," Lucy urged, forcing herself to move as an inexplicable dread roiled within her. The air thickened around them, creating resistance as they walked forward. The unsettling glow pulsed as they entered that path. Walls shimmered, revealing murals of distorted faces that seemed to scream in silence. These terrifying visages clawed at Lucy's sanity, pulling her deeper into an abyss of despair. "Why are they doing this?" Max asked, shutting his eyes tightly, as if he could block their cursed gazes. "Maybe it's to scare us," she answered, forcing her voice to stay calm. But the truth felt far more sinister. What if their fear is what fed this place? "It's working," he whispered, starting to shake. "Don't give in, Max," she declared, hating the tension coiling around her throat. "We have to keep moving. We have to keep believing." Suddenly, a dissonant roar erupted behind them, echoing like thunder crashing in the depths of a storm. Lucy turned in fright to see shadows swirling, writhing at the entrance of the path they had just left. "Go, go," she shouted, urging Max to press forward. The laughter returned, louder and more mocking. They raced down the pulsating chamber, each footfall frayed with urgency. The walls seemed to shift as if the cavern were alive, closing the distance behind them, hungry for any sign of weakness. "Mommy, I can't breathe," Max gasped, his small lungs heaving in panic. "We're almost there," Lucy responded, pushing aside her own dread. But the truth clawed at her mind. Exactly where they headed? She didn't know. Light flickered ahead, and Lucy's heart seized. Could it be? But the moment she dared to hope, the laughter morphed into a wailing scream, piercing through the air like a knife. "It's not just a game," the whispers hissed, growing louder. "It's a test. A test of your desires." Lucy gripped Max's hand. "Ignore them," she cried, the panic in her voice rising. The walls bore down on them, stretching and warping as if mocking their attempts to escape. The light was close now, vibrating with a pulsing rhythm that resonated with her heartbeat. But as they approached, Lucy sensed a shift in the atmosphere, a claustrophobic warning enveloping her senses. Then came a pause, a chilling silence that wrapped around them like a death shroud. "Mommy, what do we do now?" Max's voice trembled in the oppressive quiet. The moment felt agonizingly weighty, as if the world was holding its breath. What if she paused, grappling with the dawning realization looming at the edge of her mind? What if the light was false? What if it led them deeper into despair? "Mommy," and with that, the light flickered out, leaving them in a stifling darkness punctuated only by their breaths echoing against the stone walls. As terror spiraled in her chest, Lucy squeezed Max's hand tightly. Just then, from everywhere and nowhere, a voice erupted into the darkness, chilling to the bone. Choose, or be consumed. What awaited them in that heavy silence? Every instinct screamed to run, but was there a chance to escape what awaited them? Or had they already become part of the game? Lucy's breath caught, knowing that each moment grew heavier with unspeakable horror. In the depths of vulnerability, she wondered, what temptation would rise to seal their fate next? The silence throbbed with palpable fear, a living entity that seemed to press closer, suffocating and relentless. Lucy's heart raced, each thump echoing in the void, drowning out the weak whispers that faded into nothingness. She fumbled for the wall cold, rough rock beneath her fingertips guiding her forward in an abyss that swallowed sound and light. "Mommy, I'm scared." Max's voice trembled, small and fragile against the encroaching darkness. No. We've got this," she croaked, forcing confidence into her voice as terror slithered through her veins. "Stay close." But the shadows seemed restless and alive, creeping closer, curling around them with a malevolent intent. Lucy could feel their weight, a hunger wrapped in silence and suffocation. She took a deep breath, her chest tightening as they stumbled forward with uncertainty. Each step felt like it reverberated, drawing closer to something waiting just out of sight. "Do you hear that?" Max's whisper cut through the darkness like a knife, a note of panic edging his voice. Lucy winced, focusing hard. Faint, guttural sounds reverberated beneath their feet. No, not beneath, within the very stones. A gruesome growl that seemed to vibrate in her skull, making her feel small, insignificant. "Stay quiet. Just the sound of the cave," she whispered back, yet her own voice felt hollow and unconvincing. They pressed on, every heartbeat echoing louder against the oppressive walls. The shadow play around them intensified, twisting shapes that danced through the darkness, teasing the edges of her vision. Lucy squinted, trying to glean a hint of what was unfolding around them, a flicker of movement, a pulse in the dark. Then, impossibly, a faint glow began to seep into the endless night, soft yet menacing. It flickered like embers in a dying fire, drawing them with a tantalizing promise of answers. "Look," Max gasped. The light. Lucy caught her breath, hope and dread coiling within her. It was nearly blinding as they approached, revealing a massive chamber filled with whispers and shadow, walls adorned with objects that reflected the dim glow, old toys, photographs, and rotten remnants of forgotten lives. Each piece seemed to pulse, their histories buzzing in a sinister drone that wormed into her mind. "What is this place?" Her voice trembled, confusion mingling with fear. "It feels like a prison," Max said, his wide eyes scanning their surroundings. The air thickened, drenched with despair, and Lucy's stomach dropped as the pieces began to form a chilling picture. In that chamber, beneath the layers of dust, she felt their silent screams, not just whispers of the past, but of the present. These were the remnants of choices made that led to despair. Mommy Max's hand trembled in hers, tugging insistently. "I want to go back." But the voice that followed was almost seductive, oily and sweet, echoing through the chamber as it locked around them. "You stepped here by choice. Why not explore what depths of desire lie within you?" "Desire?" Lucy blurted, incredulous. "Yes, desires long buried." It hissed, a pulsating lure that sent chills racing down her spine. "Surrender to them and gain what you seek, or turn away from your fears and leave with nothing forever." Lucy's breath quickened, fighting against the temptation that clawed at her mind. Would they leave empty-handed? Or was their only escape entwined in the shadows of their darkest dreams? "We can't give in, Max," she gasped, but even as she spoke, her heart raced at the haunting possibility of facing hidden wishes. The air felt electric, charged with the weight of what they might find or lose. Suddenly, the light abruptly flickered and vanished, plunging them back into stifling darkness. The whispers surged once more, a tide of noise crashing against her sanity. Choose or be consumed. Lucy's heart raced, the panic pulsating through her veins. What would they find when the darkness finally revealed its true face? Would they still be whole when the game ended, if it ever did? Clutching Max's hand as the shadows swirled around them again, a new realization struck. Her like ice. Was there a choice to be made beyond survival? And what price would they pay for the light's return? A sense of impending dread hung over her, the silence now heavy with unanswered questions that pressed in from every direction. As Lucy felt the floor tremble beneath her feet, an unsettling thought gripped her. Maybe the true darkness lay not in the shadows outside, but within their own hearts. What awaited them in this haunting trial? The answers were coming, but could they withstand the darkness long enough to discover them? The darkness closed in like a thick fog, wrapping around Lucy and Max, stifling their breaths. Lucy's heart raced, thrumming in her ears as she squeezed her son's hand tighter. Every second felt heavier, as if the cave itself were constricting around them. "Mommy, what do we do?" Max's voice shook, each word laced with fear. Just stay close. We'll find a way out, Lucy replied, but even she could hear the uncertainty in her voice. She scanned the void, the memories of earlier glimmers taunting her, the warmth of hope now replaced by this biting chill. Just as the whispers grew louder, a low rumble echoed from the depths, shaking the ground beneath their feet. The air felt electric, charged with something sinister. Mommy, Max whimpered. Before she could respond, the whispers morphed into something else, a language that twisted and turned, a dark melody singing of despair and longing. It clawed at the edges of her mind, digging through the layers of thoughts she thought were buried. They promised secrets, buried dreams, lost aspirations. Don't listen to it. Focus on me. Lucy fought to keep her voice steady, though the darkness wrapped around her mind like a vice. Shadows flickered and danced, creating horrific faces that laughed at her from the depths. Suddenly, a faint glow emerged again, trembling like a beacon of hope. Lucy squinted, guiding Max toward it, half wishing it would lead them towards safety, half dreading what it might reveal. As they approached, the light intensified, revealing a grotesque mural on the far wall, twisting forms of shadows and humans entwined, forever trapped in an eternal struggle. Max gasped, staring wide-eyed at the nightmarish scene. "What is that?" he whispered. It's nothing. Just old pictures, friend," she lied, but her gut twisted in response to the truth looming over their heads. The light flickered, illuminating a figure carved into the stone, half obscured in shadows. It had an alluring presence, yet radiated dread. With each inch closer they took, the whispers crescendoed, escalating into screams that echoed off the stalactites above. Lucy's breath caught in her throat. "Mommy, it's moving," Max shouted, clutching her tightly. The figure's eyes flicked open, deep with shadows, as if pulling them into its depths. "You seek something. What do you desire?" It hissed, a blend of seduction and malice threading through its words. Lucy shivered, an icy grip forming around her heart. "Desire is a dangerous game," she murmured, both terrified and entranced. "Desire leads to power, to freedom. But only if you are willing to sacrifice what is dear," it continued, the cavern's walls vibrating with its haunting voice, seeping into their minds. Lucy's pulse quickened. What could she gain? What would it cost? The choice pressed against her like a weight she couldn't shake off. In a split second, she felt the urge to fall to her knees, to plead, yet the thought of Max stopped her. "No, we won't give in," she shouted, though doubt crept in like an insidious creature. "We will leave. We're not afraid." The entity chuckled, deep and unsettling, as shadows twisted dangerously close. "You may think you hold your fears at bay, but they lurk closer than you think. So close you cannot even see them." As the temperature dropped further, she felt warmth slip away, the warmth of hope, of safety. Her mind raced, grappling with the implications. The darkness whispered promises, but it also recognized her fears, her guilt, her regrets. They danced around her and threatened to expose the cracks in her armor. "Let us go, Max," she shouted, urging him to step backwards, away from the glowing figure. But the shadows surged, spiraling near, blocking their path. It seemed alive, pressing in with a hunger that reached for Max first. The figure loomed, now less a whisper, more a presence. "What would you sacrifice to save him?" It crooned, its voice twisting into something so familiar, so unbearable. Lucy felt her chest tighten. Each heartbeat pulsed with urgency. The realization crashed over her like a tsunami. Could whoever she was, everything she had proved to herself, be torn away in an instant? The light flickered one last time before fading again, thrusting them into a thick, oblivious black. They were lost, but not alone. The shadows echoed with laughter, an unearthly sound that silenced all. What deep, dark secrets would be uncovered in the coming choice? How far would Lucy go to protect her son, and at what cost? She braced herself, teeth gritted, gripping Max's hand with an intensity that promised defiance against the looming dread. The shadows festered around them, closing in once more. "Mommy, hold me." But could she hold on to them both? The path to despair was waiting, and the unveiling was just beginning. What would the shadows reveal when they finally reached for the light? Lucy felt the pressure of the shadows closing in, a clammy breath on the nape of her neck. She pulled Max closer, heart pounding like a drum, echoing in her ears. "We have to keep moving," she whispered, even as dread clawed at her mind. But every direction felt wrong. The once faint glow had plunged them into an abyss of night, and the sound of their footsteps echoed like a heartbeat, slow, sweaty, pregnant with tension. "Mommy, I'm scared." Max's voice was small, almost swallowed by the overpowering darkness. "Stay behind me," Lucy urged, her own voice feeling hollow and distant. She turned, trying to peer into the blackness, but all she felt was the malevolence waiting just beyond her line of sight, like a shark circling its prey. The whispers were gone now, but the feeling of being watched remained, a suffocating pressure that made it hard to breathe. Suddenly, a stitch in the veil of darkness broke as a low, guttural growl emanated from somewhere in the cave. Lucy froze. Her heart raced. Max's little hands gripped her tighter, knuckles white from the strength of his fear. "Mommy!" he cried, eyes wide, filled with a mix of raw panic and desperate trust. "It's okay, buddy." Lucy attempted a smile, though her insides twisted with anxiety. "We'll figure this out." And then, without warning, the ground beneath them shifted, a deep rumble vibrating through the earth. A crack opened up, releasing a chilling draft that smelled of decay and despair. Lucy instinctively stepped back, pulling Max away from the gaping maw that seemed eager to swallow them whole. "What is happening?" Max whimpered, confusion and fear dancing across his young features. "I don't know." Lucy gritted her teeth, struggling to maintain composure. She wished she could protect him from this horror, from the encroaching shadows and the very essence of fear they harbored. Before they could catch their breath, a flash of light burst from the fissure, illuminating a grotesque sight. Visions of tortured faces flickered through the cracks, mouth agape in silent screams, torment reflected in their hollow eyes. With each passing second, the light danced, illuminating a larger monstrosity, a mass of shadows, swirling, taking shape. Lucy stepped back, heart thundering. No, what is that?" Max gasped, horror spilling from his voice. "Just keep away from it," Lucy shouted, pulling him closer. Her mind raced a cacophony of screams, both from behind the shadows and inside her head, filling every crevice with despair. She could feel the entity's hunger growing, a looming presence desperate for an offering. "Sacrifice it," whispered, 1,000 voices mingling into one agonizing plea. "What will you give?" Desperation clawed within her. She felt it tugging her to the ground, urging her to give in, to surrender. "You can have me," she shouted, feeling the words wrestle out of her mouth unbidden. "Just let him go." A shudder ran through the creature's form, rippling like water disturbed. "One must pay the toll," it hissed, dark mirth lurking beneath its surface. "No," Lucy screamed, horrified by the thought. "No, do not take him." With a chilling chuckle, the shadows opened wider, inviting dark promises to dance within the space. Lucy squeezed Max's hand tighter, refusing to let the fear take him entirely. She would fight, and somewhere, deep within her trembling heart, the glimmer of that suspended hope flickered once more. But was it enough against the chilling tide of despair that washed over them? As they braced themselves against the encroaching darkness, she struggled with her choices, the weight of love desperately vying against the sinister hunger of the shadows. Would she risk it all? The shadows pressed in tighter, thirsting for the warmth of choices yet to be made. "Mommy, what do we do now?" Max's question hung heavy in the air, a stark reality that didn't escape her. As the shadows began to whisper her own fears back to her, Lucy clenched her jaw, determination stealing her spine. "We fight. But what would they have to sacrifice when the time came? Would they be able to escape?" The claws of terror closed in tighter, teasing the edge of despair as they lingered on the precipice of a decision. And that's when the figure loomed closer, reaching out. What price would they pay to escape the shadows? And was there even a path left to light? Lucy's heart thundered in her chest as they prepared to face the looming darkness. The cavern trembled, shadows slithering closer like snakes preparing to strike. The sinister promises whispered around them, threatening to engulf everything in their path. "Mommy, I'm so scared." Max's voice was barely a whisper. She could feel his small body shake against her. "We'll get through this, I promise." Lucy gripped his hand tighter, the warmth of their connection feeding the flickering flame of hope buried deep inside her. As the shadows swallowed the light, Lucy knew they had two choices: surrender to despair or fight back against the darkness that craved to consume them. We have to confront whatever this is. Together, Max echoed, his innocence igniting renewed strength within her. Suddenly, the chilling voice resonated again, compelling her attention. To leave is to pay homage. To gain, you must sacrifice. The figure now emerged more fully, revealing a grotesque visage that twisted from shadows. Faces twisted with anguish wreathed its form, pleading for release. Lucy felt bile rise in her throat. You want to have us. We want to play your game. The creature chuckled, a sound more haunting than anything she had ever heard. Your fear feeds me. Your love binds you to this abyss. With fierce determination, Lucy stepped forward, pushing back against the waves of despair pressing upon her. Love is stronger than fear, she shouted, her voice reverberating through the cave, sending ripples through the shadowy mass filling the chamber. A flash of light pulsed in response, illuminating a pathway behind the demon. It was the alternative they had, searching for, a back door hidden in plain sight offering a way out. But it flickered against the monstrous horror pressing closer. Max! Lucy yelled, pulling him toward the light. But the shadows surged with renewed vigor, swiping at them with uncanny malice. Keep moving. Max clung to her side with unyielding trust. I can do it, he cried, pushing through his fear. They advanced, dodging the tendrils of darkness that whipped out dangerously close, desperate to trap them. Just as they dove into the light, the cave shook violently. One must pay the toll. The entity's voice snarled, tightening like a noose around their throats. Lucy felt the world fall away beneath her. It's not worth it, she screamed, grasping Max's shoulders. We want to give ourselves up. The cavern exploded with blinding light, banishing the shadows that clawed for them. And suddenly, they were in the middle of the storm, the harsh sun flooding them with warmth. They stood on Driftwood Bay, the tide rolling gently against the shore. Max blinked, dazed. Were we inside? He asked, still holding on to her, as if letting go might send him back into the darkness. Maybe, Lucy replied, looking over her shoulder. The ocean pulsed relentlessly, but now it felt different, less menacing. But we faced it, together. Max nodded, his eyes searching hers. I think we broke the curse, she breathed, a weight lifting off her chest. Perhaps the shadows lost their strength when confronted. Suddenly, Harold emerged from the beach shack nearby, eyes wide with concern. Lucy, Max, you made it. Relief washed over him. Harold, it's all over, she cried, her heart swelling with gratitude. We escaped the depths. It'll take crying with others for a while, but we will live free from fear, he said, his voice steadier now. As she and Max turned to face the ocean, Lucy took in a deep breath. The incident had changed them. They wouldn't be so easily ensnared by the darkness again. Maybe the shadows were always there to remind us, she murmured, squeezing Max against her side. But as long as we have one another, we'll never let it consume us. Max grinned, the sun painting golden rays across his cheeks. I'm brave, just like you, he said, bouncing with newfound energy, reflecting the dawn of hope. As they walked hand in hand away from the shore, Lucy glanced back at the ocean, now a tranquil blue, alive with possibilities. No longer would it hold a grip on her soul. With each step forward, the whispers of despair faded into the gentle breeze, replaced by the laughter of newfound strength and love. Their escape from horror ultimately paved by their fierce refusal to surrender. And so, they left Driftwood Bay behind, ready for whatever life would throw at them next. But remember, dear viewers, this is your moment to get involved. Subscribe immediately so you don't miss out on our next thrilling stories filled with suspense. Smash that like button now. Your support fuels more adventures. Don't you dare leave without flooding the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this ending. And remember, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Spread the word, and let us keep the excitement alive. You need to support the channel now. Don't wait even one more second.